So then we get into chordal dissonance. Basically, you're going to have some dissonances that need to be resolved correctly, and they occur because of the dominant seventh chord. All right, so in the key of F major, as we see on page 217, here's our example, and you can apply this to any key. Top of page 217, example 11.4. We're in the key of F major, and we look at the dominant seventh chord, which in the key of F, the dominant is C. So we're going to build a seventh chord off of that. C is the root. Then we have E, G, B flat. Remember, we're in the key of F, B is flat. Right, so the seventh of the dominant seventh chord is B flat. B flat is also the fourth scale degree of the key of F. F, G, A, B flat. That B flat is called a chordal seventh because it's the seventh of the dominant seventh chord. Right, that chordal seventh always needs to resolve down by half a step. So that B flat, when that occurs in your writing, you need to resolve it. The next pitch that B flat will go to needs to be a half step lower, which is A. The leading tone, which is another dissonant that you're going to have to resolve correctly, goes up a half step. All right, the leading tone is always the seventh scale degree, a half step below the tonic. In the key of F, that would be E. E has to resolve up a half step to F, the tonic. So when you have those two dissonances, the E to the B flat, you need to make sure they resolve correctly. The chordal seventh resolves down. The chordal seventh is also the fourth scale degree, fourth pitch in the key. And the seventh always resolves up by half a step. You notice the different combinations you can have harmonic dissonances. Under letter A of example 11.4, you have a minor seventh. If you have B flat, will need to resolve down to A. The third measure, you have a major second. B flat, it's going to have to resolve down to A. You have a diminished fifth, and you have an augmented fourth. All right, so you can notice that in measure 4 there, E to B flat, we just switched the notes around, put the E up top, so now we have an augmented fourth. If you look under letter B, under resolutions, you see how these are resolved. Okay, the B flat, which is the chordal seventh or fourth scale degree, resolves down to A, a half step down to A, and the E, which is the leading tone, resolves up a half step to F. And they show you in the second measure, the fourth goes down, third measure, fourth goes down, fourth goes down. The last measure, the leading tone goes up. So the key concept, in the dominant seventh harmony, the chordal seventh, which is scale degree 4, and the leading tone, which is scale degree 7, are tendency tones. Okay, they're tendency tones. Always resolve the chordal seventh down, so you have 4 to 3, and the leading tone up, 7 to 1. One more thing before we continue. Whenever you have a dissonant tritone, which is you have the dissonant pitches, the augmented fourth or the diminished fifth, that's a dissonant tritone. Sometimes it's spelled as a diminished fifth, sometimes it's spelled as an augmented fourth. Right? It's the same interval spelled different ways. If you have a diminished fifth, you're going along in your part writing and you're writing out your intervals and you find a diminished fifth. You have to resolve that inward, so the next two pitches are going to both resolve inward to create the interval of a third for the next interval. So diminished fifth resolves into a third. If you have an augmented fourth, you're going to resolve that out to the interval of a sixth. So look at the top of page 217 again, example 11.4, letter A. The second to last measure there has a diminished fifth. If we were to resolve that diminished fifth, the B flat would go down to A, the E would go up to F, creating the interval of a third. But in the last measure, we have an augmented fourth, and we're going to resolve that outward. So the E is now going to go up to F, and the B flat is going to go down to A, and that creates a sixth, the interval of a sixth. So go down to example 11.5 here. The St. George's Windsor again. We have two augmented fourths in this piece. Okay, we have in measure 9, we have an augmented fourth between the B and the E. Sorry, the B flat and the E. That's an augmented fourth. The E resolves up to F, and the B flat resolves down to A. Notice the interval right after augmented fourth is a sixth. In measure 11, we have another augmented fourth. Okay, it's an E flat with an A. It's an augmented fourth. Right, you have to resolve augmented fourths out to a sixth. So the A goes up to B flat, and the E flat goes down to D. So whenever you come across an augmented fourth in your part writing, make sure you resolve it out to a sixth. If you were to come across a diminished fifth, you're going to resolve the two tones in so that you create the interval of a third right after that diminished fifth. And under letter B, you can see how that works a little bit as well. So on page 218, the key concept, if you have a diminished fifth, it tells you by contrary motion to a third, basically. You have an augmented fourth, resolve it out to a sixth. If you have a minor seventh, okay, so go back here to page 217. We have a minor seventh under example 11.4, letter B, second measure there. We have a minor seventh, C to B flat. Here's how you resolve that. The B flat goes down to A. So the top, the chordal seventh, which is the fourth scale degree, moves down a half step to A. And then the C, which is the dominant, would go up to F. So you still resolve to a third, just like a diminished fifth. So if you have a minor seventh or a diminished fifth, resolve them to a third. If you augment a fourth, you resolve out to a sixth.